Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good twilight, wherever you happen to be. Thank you and welcome to the very first of our stream sessions here at iMoot 2013. We have a seasoned professional, I nearly said performer, that's not fair to Austen, who joined us, who actually works for the Inland Revenue. He's a very experienced Moodler, and I actually went to great pains to contact him and said, look, present again for it. He's a very engaging speaker. Please, the fact that he works for Inland Revenue, or for those in Australia would also refer to it as a tax office, do not hold this against him. He is not evil, he is not an accountant, in fact he's one of the most passionate Moodle people I know down in New Zealand. So having done a wonderfully awkward introduction to a man who needs very little, I'll pass over the floor and the session is yours. Thank you very much.
Quick show from the. Apparently, I'm now unmuted. Can I just have a quick show through the chat forum if you can hear me properly? Fantastic. Alrighty, well then I'm going to crack on. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me from that introduction from Julian, alrighty, I call myself a mammal in our office environment, and everyone assumes I'm talking about Moodle. I'm not. I'm talking about a habit of wearing low wind resistant material known as lycra. But perhaps more relevantly, I'm a Moodler, and I suspect like many of you have started with an earlier version of Moodle than the one currently used. In a corporate setting, we have been involved in an awful lot of customizations, which you'll see shortly, some of which I'm proud to say have made it into core Moodle, and many more are in the Totara distribution itself. I'm very proud of the open source award a few years ago. Inland Revenue, like many government departments, isn't really able to participate in awards very often, so unbelievably smug even now. And very happy to connect with Moodlers through LinkedIn, and there's my LinkedIn address there. Alrighty, so in the scope of this being a case study, I just want to put in context the environment which we're using our site. As you can see, 5,500 staff, number of sites. The key detail here is that around a third of our people aren't involved in traditional tax. They're involved in other stuff, student loans, child support, KiwiSaver's New Zealand superannuation scheme. And so this is, I think, an example of a small country syndrome, where our tax administration does quite a lot more than just traditional tax that you might do within your own country. Tax, as you're probably aware, is quite a political area, and it experiences frequent change from our government. Generally, taxes at a high level, the corporate level, are quite complex, and obviously if we make mistakes, they're very significant. So just in the context of learning, that sort of describes who we are, and of course our website covers. Our learning and development context is, I think, useful in this case study as well. Every time we have a change, there's three phases to it that occur over a number of years. The first change is people getting ready for the new thing. It might be change in tax rates or requirements or reporting. There's a phase in which they're actually transacting the work, our process phase, and there's a follow-up stage for those who have or have missed one of those earlier steps. So you can imagine from a training perspective, we know up front for every piece of change. We can't normally get external providers for our work, so we build pretty much everything in-house. And we have a long history of using a delivery person. So in summary, our L&D practice is best described as suddenly attached to trainings developed in-house, delivered in the classroom, and by a fellow staff member. The LMS has changed that somewhat. In the 7 years that I've been involved, we now have 42% online, where we had 0%. Classroom, which sounds really impressive, except that what we have online tends to be really short, succinct stuff, and what we have in the classroom tends to be longer and more substantial. Next phase is LMS journey from the perspective of a study. So as you can see, we launched 2006. We migrated through various versions of Moodle. We were quite fortunate to engage with the Totara folk quite early, and we had some of the modules before their formal launch. We migrated as an early adopter in 2011. And now we're laggards. We're still on 1.1. LMS itself hosts all training, including a lot of development activities. Through the face-to-face module, we host pretty much all training through the LMS, including a lot of seminars and conferences. And as you can see, staff is almost 2,700. I'm not going to talk about Totara in a great deal of detail here. Recognise the government department, we have a lot of rules around procurement and what we can and can't say about commercial software that we use or in commercial software. So I'm simply going to say that, as you can read, it's Moodle with business stuff added in. It has a slightly different business model. You have to subscribe, so you don't. It's not free as in beer. Once you've got it, you can. From our perspective, the subscription cost is very, very small. It's dwarfed by the actual cost of hosting, building anything, reading consulting stuff. A lot more detail at Totara LMS, so I won't labour it, just to say that it is Moodle. This part has actually taken me a while to figure out, and it's the difference between academic Moodle and a corporate LMS. From a case study point of view, I think this is where the value in this presentation is. Academic Moodle, you have a few courses, the learners stay in that course for a long period of time, they know there are other participants, and once they're finished, the record is kept somewhere else. Corporate world, LMS is just one small thing of a range of options that people have. And arguably it competes with those. Our usage for courses is around just a model. Getting a comment about audio cutting out. I'm hearing a bit of back chat through my ear as well. I'm wondering if it's the sound. I'm going. Apologies over the sound. Anything better here about the microphone arrangement?
Hi, Austin. This is Fred.
Yeah. Hi, Fred.
And I think it might just be like there's always a background noise in the session, like a little hiss. It's called a comfort noise, just to make sure people can hear, like it's not dead silence. And it might be that your audio is not peaking high enough to cut out this background noise that's put in. So if you want to just increase the sensitivity of your microphone, and I can walk you through how to do this. Are you in a Mac or PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to do it, and so don't do it right now, but I'll tell you what to do. You'll click the headset icon twice. The first one will leave the session. The second time you'll come back in. Sorry, the first one will leave the audio conference. You'll still be in Big Blue Button. Clicking it a second time will bring you back into the audio conference, but you'll see that audio settings dialog. You would have clicked through it at first. In the audio settings dialog, just click on the test microphone button, and then in Flash you can just increase the sensitivity. Click OK, join the session, and we should hear you a bit louder. So go ahead and try it.
Thank you very much, Fred. I'll do that now.
Okay, just say again. Sorry, you came in muted by default, so I just unmuted you.
Oh, thank you for that. So how are we getting on this? It sounds a lot clearer on my headset.
You know what? It sounds about the same. Why don't you just try talking just a tiny bit louder? Kind of like just give it a little bit more energy on your side, speak a bit louder, and then just continue.
Alrighty, thank you for that. Okay, so forgive me if I'm shouting a little, but hopefully you'll get to hear more of it. So looking at corporate LMS, you probably already had the opportunity now to read the stuff there, but essentially our staff members visit lots of course pages. They're very short, and a record of their participation is permanent. They never unenrolled. The course page is never deleted. If we replace the course with something new, we archive that course they were in, but we keep it in the system and part of their record. So it's kind of different from the academic use, and I think yeah, that's the big difference. And when I talk to academic Moodlers, they look at our proliferation of pages and wonder how this happens. Well, it happens because we never delete anyone. Their participation in the course page is the record. Moving on to the first case study, and the good stuff, if you like, it's about our individual development plans. And for us, the key detail here is that we have a problem with how many course pages we have, as you can probably imagine. I want to walk you through the steps that we've gone from push to pull, from pull to push. So the pull model here is that the learner goes into the LMS and finds something and pulls content out. The push model is the LMS is essentially promoting things to them to do. So starting on the left-hand side, we have categories that will be immensely familiar to a Moodler. It's the standard Moodle homepage model where you list categories of courses that are available. The search model is the same, where you search for stuff, and you start relying on search when you have a lot of course pages. Comes a point, and I think it's 500 to 1,000 pages, where categories and search begins to fail. And at that point, you need to find ways to help learners find material. You've just gotten too big. So we started with, a few years ago, with a framework model, where we had sort of guides of things that would be appropriate. This morphed into roles. And that got complicated by the desire to use competencies and various other devices to help people find what they need to be doing. And ultimately, we've ended up with individual development plans, which kind of combines all of these. So let's see this in practice. Next page is is the front page of our LMS. Forgive me, there's a couple of things grayed out. We reasonably open, but you'll see as we go on, there's a few things we just had to cover up. And so this would be instantly familiar to a Moodler. You can see course category, the home page, some main menu items, very much a 1.9 site. There's a couple of things that are Totara specific. This menu bar across the top here is very much Totara, but it is pulling up stuff that is otherwise found in Moodle, so it's quite familiar. It is my view that this model fails when you have 1,000 or so courses or more, and I think it also fails when you're adding a lot of courses. So we add 10 to 50, yeah, some weeks it's at least, some weeks it's more courses a week, and there's no way that a learner can find new things related to them by browsing through categories on the off chance that they're in the right subcategory or subcategory to find learning that might be relevant for them. So this model breaks because it's what we've done. So this is a different view of the LMS. This isn't a place that you navigate to from the front page. This is the front page for a learner. So this becomes their index.html. When they click on the link to go to the LMS, we have single sign-on, so immediately it goes in, knows who they are, and it displays information based on them. For those of you who have played with the My Moodle page, you'll see that we've shamelessly stolen a number of ideas from there. And it does a number of things. The first one is this section here, and my apologies, it's quite a small image, the My Upcoming Activities. This is a list of courses that I've committed to do in the future. For our courses that are taught face-to-face, very easy to plan your future attendance because you've got a physical date that you're going to the course. Online courses, it's very difficult to plan your intention to do this. There's no tool in an LMS to say, I plan to do this online course in May, and I plan to do that online course in June, and this online course in August. It's very difficult to do that. There isn't a tool. So what will happen outside of an LMS is that you will manually recreate the list of all the courses you're planning to do in some sort of plan or document. It's incredibly inefficient, and it seems it's very redundant. And our experience from our level 1 evaluation is that what people plan to do on a distant system on paper that they only look at once a year bears no resemblance to what they actually do and book through the learning management system. So it makes sense to have it here. that plan. You can see, because this is my actual development plan, that I have a large number of things that are due on the 30th of June. And the logic we've applied is when you add and the intention to do a course to your plan, it defaults to being due at the last day of your plan. So we have a financial year that runs 1 July to 30 June. You'll see many of these are defaulted to the last date. I could manually move these dates sooner, or I could simply do the course. And I have more courses than usual because I'm testing many of those things, and I have no intention of actually ever completing a number of these tasks and be able to complete them. You will also notice that I'm exhibiting a behaviour that is not uncommon among learners, that there are some development opportunities I have not yet done. And in Revenue and possibly other organisations are very strong at, if it gets measured, it gets done. And so having things that are overdue is a very powerful influencer in our business. So I've been a bit naughty with a few things I've not done. Although awkwardly, the last one was the Moodle Homepage last month, and I've forgotten to take attendance. So yeah, I'll just let my hand here so you can see it, and we'll move on. Obviously, this is very, very busy. I want to move into just a couple of aspects of this page. Here we go, fantastic. So first of all, I've filtered the page to only view the month, so that makes that list a lot smaller. The overdue ones are still very prominent. What I've expanded is new development activities related to my competencies. So in my plan, I have a series of development competencies that is my focus for the year. And as new courses that relate to those competencies appear, they appear in this list. So this is a way that it's pushing to me new things that are aligned to what I said I would do. And there's some smarts behind there. You may not be able to see it terribly well. I'll zoom in a wee bit. You'll see that there's this plus and eyeball symbol. So if I click on plus, this particular development activity is immediately added to my development plan. If I click on the eyeball, the suggestion disappears from the list and is no longer appears. So I can manage this if I wish to through that means. Given I don't have a lot of competencies in my development plan, I'm not seeing a particular. The competencies aren't consistently done across our business, and in my experience with other agencies as well, they're not always done particularly well in general. So make sure we succeed in this push model. We have a third layer of development solutions, and I'll zoom in. This is anything else that might be related to you. So the idea here is if you've done another course that's related to the course, so you did Baby Excel and now you're ready for Intermediate Excel, it would promote Intermediate Excel because you've done Baby Excel, and anything connected to role, your business location, anything that comes up. And so the intent is we should minimize the need to go and search or minimize the need to go and browse the categories. And that seems to be our experience of how. Now, what you may have noticed if you've seen these sort of corporate tools before is we've created this huge bias, and it's towards formal training. We've made the process of selecting and finding formal training so smooth that it becomes the priority ahead of any other means of development. Stuart's there. Stuart, your coffee cup is amazing, thank you. So this bias is a problem. And so we had to figure out a way of how do we get back into development planning where we have non-training activities in an LMS that is designed to hold and host and track and record formal activity. So we know how to play with comments. So you'll be aware that that comments are rough image there. And you'll be aware that comments are part of Moodle 2, and we've gone to town with them. We have first played with them at a course page level, then we played with them at a category level, then we attached them to competencies, then we played them with development plans, and we've gone a bit crazy with comments. But this is what we do. So we've got our first comment here that can add a date and a progress statement, and then we can use comments to help shape things and form the evidence of the development. So here's an example actually from my development plan where I proposed that I went to a PowerPoint course. It was aligned to a development need that my manager identified to improve my presentation skills. And I nominated that I go to this PowerPoint course, and my manager's been absolutely clear here that this is not the right one for me. So should this, when this rolls up to my development plan at the end of the year, and I've still done the PowerPoint course and not done the presentation skills, that will be for me. So you can see how comments here can refine existing formal resources. You can also describe other forms of development that aren't training. I now have a new manager, and she suggested that I overly use online courses to achieve things, and she has challenged me in my development to do 3 courses that are facilitated in person and don't use any technology, which is quite a challenge. So I've gone ahead and done that, and I've dealt with 3 presentations, and they've been rather mixed. I've recorded that, and she's then responded with the stuff around the usefulness of the development activity, and acknowledging, yes, that maybe the quality of the presentation wasn't great. But from the perspective of development activity, done appropriate, challenging development that wasn't really a course page. Then you can help people with comments. So for an example for us is we have a number of staff who wish to become people leaders. And we have a series of activities that they can do and competencies to help them prepare and collect evidence that they're ready to do this, and get some experience for them to prepare them. So here's an example of one where we're asking people who wish to become team leaders to chair 3 of their own team meetings with some criteria about being on time, an agenda, keeping to task, allowing people to contribute but still staying on time, sort of thing. And you can imagine as a development activity that's far more powerful than just saying do this 10-minute online course, or go and watch a TED talk on leadership, or go and do this 4-day frontline leadership course if it's going to be a while, or the person needs to work on simple things like assertiveness, or just even the perspective. This is quite a good way of getting that in without having to build a course page and assuming that every solution is formal. Now the problem with comments, and this is a Facebook problem and it's a problem with other things, is they form a conversation. And you need to know that they've happened. You need to know that there's an update. And in our environment, we send emails. We send a lot of emails. We sent 300,000 emails from our LMS last year to our staff. And the feedback is overwhelming that we send too many emails. So we've stopped. We now use notifications. Moment you'll see it, here we go. And so forgive me for lots of blanked out bits and all that kind of stuff, but let me walk you through what you've got. So you'll be familiar with, and in a Moodle context, you've got your logged in as, we've added our little running person as an icon because it's part of our theme set, and we've got a notification counter of unread messages. This will be immediately familiar to you from a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a Google+, pretty much any smartphone app. And so we have a presentation layer of these notifications that pops up. We have a series of customized text strings that put this in context. So this person who's blacked out is attending a course. I've received that because I'm their people leader. I had to own up last week to a small outage. I let this film, very embarrassing. And so a forum post that went to, including myself, is the first 250 lines, the first 250 characters are posted here, and I can go and read the direct link in the same way as an email would. And then the last one here, because I'm involved in the course, some of the sessions have been fully subscribed, and I get an alert to a notification that the last seat's been taken, with a view that if I didn't realise there was such demand, I could add some new sessions. So that's our notification model. And you can see that that sort of goes a long way to having our notifications and that conversation continue. Here we go. So all of this rolls up to a document. Now, I don't know if you've been in a workplace where you've had formal structured performance and development reviews. They tend to happen in a meeting room. They tend to happen away from a PC. And so to support that, we have a PDF export of your development plan, if you like, your home page of your LMS. We print it out, and there's an overview of what you said you do, the comments, there's the competencies that you're working on, any courses that you've completed that are related to them. And you can see that large, but it puts in one place a snapshot of where you are with your development at any time, and you could either print that out, put it on your iPad, or just use that online to support the conversation itself. We're quite pleased with that. So you can see how that all sort of fits together in our development planning space, and in that move from where a learner simply pulls down courseware to an environment where we push courseware and we support how that all comes together. So learnings from this is when we got better at presenting courses, we had a strong bias towards development activities at the expense of informal. When we introduced comments to balance that, we think we're successful, but it's made it way more complicated. So our focus now will be to continue what we're doing, but to make it smoother, simpler, a little sharper, and a little clearer about what the next step is. I now have another mini sort of case study, and this is operations management. Just have a show of hands. Has anyone here experienced operations management? They've been in a workforce where there's it's quite meanly described as the widgetification of work. Not necessarily seen as a particularly pleasant way of working. It's kind of a factory model where work is defined in discrete steps and measured and monitored, and there's quite a lot of focus on the actual task. It's hopefully unfamiliar in an education setting. It's part of how, nope, no one has, okay. It's part of how we work. If you recognize as a tax agency, we receive literally millions of letters a year. We have a number of manual tasks that we repeat. A lot of people send us checks, or they send us paper-based copies of their payroll or various other documents they're required to supply. And there's quite a factory aspect to handling that. And there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained if it's done consistently and done well. But the problem with operations management is that if L&D aren't engaged at the beginning, every task that they define in their workplace becomes supported by a matching singular training product. And at our pilot site for operations management 2 years ago, we quickly realized that the 4 facilitators on site of a place with 400 staff had no chance of keeping up or meeting the demand. That was not a good part. So we decided that we needed to get in early, and that we would structure the support with the idea of I use the word competency here, but we didn't actually use the word competency in front of operations management people, because it had a different meaning again to what it might mean to you or me. So we talked about a smaller set of broad trainings that would enable people then to successfully attempt quite a large number of tasks. We built a skills matrix that supplied the skills ratings for each of those tasks being undertaken. This will look a little weird. Here it is. So what you have here is the team leader going in and seeing the skills matrix for their team. There's a button here to confirm for the month. I confirm that my ratings are accurate for the month of May. They can see members of their team. They can see the particular tasks that they are assigned. So in operations management, a version that we have, a team leader gets a collection normally of 20 to 30 tasks that they are responsible for producing a certain amount of output over a 90-day window, and they're measured against. And this particular interface is where the team leader can rate the skill level, not the productivity, but the skill level of the staff member doing it. So this is very much a can do, can't do kind of matrix. And you can probably already interpret by the green for good, can do, red for bad, but they can't do, grey, we haven't made a decision. And that would be accurate. That would be how it's described. We were very pleased with our colour stuff when we launched this, and then we discovered we have a large number of colourblind team leaders, so we had to pop in some numbers there as well to help support that. Now, if you just think about this for a moment. So a team is normally 15 people. They have 20 to 300 tasks. That's 300 to 450 decisions they have to make each month about quite detailed skills for each member of the team. It's not a very pleasant or popular task. So we spend a lot of effort on the interface for how they do the rating. You'll see that in a moment. So they click on one of those coloured cells and they see this. They see the summary of the task. They see who it is, normally with their picture. In this case, I've had to use a non-real person. Well, he was real, but a non-real account. There's a drop-down here where they can quickly rate the skill level of the person. They can see the history, and the history is important because after 6 months, the skill rating drops to 0, and they can add a comment. And comments made here get notified to the staff member through notifications and also appear in their development plan. So these comments have some connection to the staff member and a way to identify development required and put some context around the development required. I couldn't find an example that didn't reveal tax details, but this page also shows any courses that this learner has done that are connected to the competencies this task is related to. So I know that sounds convoluted, but we wanted to avoid course equals task, and the way to do that is an intermediate step with a competency that describes a broad range of skills of which this task is one of. So the idea is the team leader is informed as well as they can be about any possible skill information we're providing from their learning journey, recognising that many of the learning activities the staff member will do will be invisible to the leader because they're online courses done in a few minutes in the elements. That was the interface that we had for that. Coming now to the lessons learned from that particular activity. As you probably guessed from my tone and how to pitch this, we found with operations management that they were the people who led operations management were the very most process-centric people you could imagine. And anything that was vague, inconsistent, or incomplete, they just dropped it. It was very much help us along the way or get out of our way, and quite tough. I have to say, from an L&D perspective, they are challenging to work with. We are, as an L&D function, used to creativity. We're used to being able to take time to reflect. We're used to experiment and adjust and change. And operations management is the very opposite of that. So it is very challenging for us to participate. The good thing, though, once you persist with them, is that once you have a good process, they will follow it. They will maintain it, they will measure it, and they will continue to seek ways to improve it. So they're an interesting but challenging customer. As far as they're concerned, the skills matrix meets their needs, and so from this point on, their interest is really only about maintaining it and seeing if there are smaller sort of things they can nibble away to make it better. My perspective is that it's still very clunky, it's still huge, and there's got to be a better way. But my ability to influence that, or our ability to influence that, is limited because they have a solution that works. They're an interesting group to work with. And then my final piece is about what we're doing now with our Totara install. Many people have acknowledged that knowledge workers are becoming more frequent, more common in the workplace. As many of our tax processes become automated with people filing online, people being able to complete their obligations online, there's less need for paper, there's less need for people to manage paper. People call us on the phone, but they now email us, and we've got ways of automating and making the support and response for our customers much quicker. And so the nature of work is changing. So we have staff who spend less time doing repetitive tasks and more times doing things at the edges of tasks where they require interpretation, some skill, and some different approaches. And they become increasingly from process to knowledge workers. And of course, we've already had a large number of knowledge workers. We're, I think, the second largest employer of accountants in the country, and we'd be right up there with our application of this. We're already quite a strong knowledge worker. You're wondering why that's in an LMS space? It's in here for a very good reason. People leaders and process workers have a formal, well-established training model. They consume training courses, they then demonstrate it in their work. Knowledge workers do not. The work, in many respects, is the learning. And it's very difficult from an L&D perspective to figure out how best to support them, particularly from an LMS look. But we've been working on understanding how knowledge workers work. recognizing that many knowledge workers don't do any courses. So we looked at the process of the discovery of resources and people. So they have a new piece of work that requires them to go and find information. So this is different from training. They need to go and find information, and that kind of information can be a person as opposed to a book, a document, or a web page. They need to work with others to create that new knowledge. They share the output among their peers, it's their output. And they also determine the reputation of themselves and of other resources. Now, this is presented here in a linear fashion. I suspect the reality is quite chaotic, but you would recognize some terms here in particular, the discovery and the reputation element. So the LMS can be quite useful for discovery because it already has many of the learning resources, and it also identifies who authored those learning resources. It can also be useful in the reputation aspect. Open badges springs to mind as an example. So we have proposed, and we've worked on, and we have built, and we're just getting our businesses buy-in, for a land grab for the phone directory. Currently, like every organisation, we have a list of who's who and their phone number and their email address. So that's it. Our plan is to use the Totara of the Moodle tools to add aspects of the image of the person, a user-settable description of what they do, and the ability to follow them. So if they change role, you get a notification. The ability to link with them. So if you they add some content in their profile, or enables you to see their upcoming bookings for courses, or even how their performance plan or their development objectives. And then the ability to collaborate, to initiate a collaboration session, perhaps, who knows, through Big Blue Button. Now, this doesn't sound like a very big step, but it is a big step for us because we don't have this now. We don't have this openness. We don't, one of the phrase, trust our staff to write their own description of what they do and how they do it. Yet knowledge workers, the nature of their work, it's very hard to apply a description of what they do. It really does depend a lot on what they are actually working on. So this is a big change for us, and we're quite excited that this would come through the LMS. And I suspect that this is the beginning of the process by which we capture, support, and nurture the L&D needs of knowledge workers. Alrighty. So I'm going to take a pause there and just see if there are any questions around the three pieces that I've shown today. Of interest, top of mind there. And now I'm going to own up to the truth of what you've just seen. The case studies in our future plans are all very highly customized modules. They leverage, as you can tell, stuff that's already in Moodle, and they leverage some of the additional components of Totara. And what we've done here in our real world use is we've leveraged those things further to actually follow and meet our business needs. Our real world use is that we've continued to leverage the open source nature of the software to be able to add, size, and configure. Our dependence on some of the tools within them are maxed. So there is and have a look at any questions. Right. And here we go. First question is, do we find it difficult to maintain the customizations? Our vendor does a very good job of that. We are quite, in some respects, very risk adverse, although the particular code person we're working with wants to buy us a t-shirt that says we test in production. We do have some challenges in the customizations, and we're very aware that being based on a 1.9 instance of Moodle, our change to Moodle 2.4, the Totara version of Moodle 2.4, is going to be a bumpy road. There are a number of things that are yeah, thanks, Julian. Yeah, it's going to be a bumpy road, but worth it, because I think the stuff that you get in Moodle 2.4 and obviously, as Julian's just noted, 2.5 are really useful. The Bootstraps theme is amazing. You know, years we've been desktop PC people, and suddenly our staff are using iPads and Android tablets all over the place, and we're still supporting IE6. So the move to the Bootstraps team is really exciting, but we'll have some challenges, and we'll certainly place a lot of pressure on our customizations. Do you find your one features? Yes, we do, Trish. We definitely have a cascade of customization. The moment we add one thing, our internal customers go, yes, that's useful, but now we need this on top of it. And that's really hard. And in my first case study, we talked about the addition of comments. We had no intention of building comments. We had a future desire to do it, but no realization it was going to happen soon or be a requirement. And yeah, that feature creep can get really fast, really quickly. It's a challenge to do. Oh, Trish, it's not a pain. No. One of the good things about the corporate space is we're reasonably well funded, and when a business unit says we must have this, we normally are able to put up front and say, well, we estimate the development cost will be around this. So it's not necessarily a pain thing, it's more an opportunity in leveraging how we work with the business. Okay, so if there are no further questions, we might wrap up now. Are you there, Julian?
Sorry about that, just obviously wanting to jump in. Any more questions before we call to a close? Obviously, on behalf of the iMoot team, again, while I make light of it, Austen, you have been a contributor to iMoot for, I think it's been all of them now, I believe. We're very thankful to have people like you presenting your knowledge and content, and especially in relation to Totara, which in the community has been quite a divisive force, but as a tool is just doing fantastic work. So thank you again for your time, for your passion, for your knowledge. Again, as I said in the keynote session, there is a discussion forum in the session space. Please don't let the conversation end here. If you have more questions, you want to share your own thoughts on it, have you used Totara yourself, please do use the forum that's attached to this session space and keep the session continuing as the discussion onward. And otherwise, again, we have a good 45 minutes up our sleeves to get rehydrated, recaffeinated, and ready for the next session. So on behalf of iMoot, thank you everybody for coming, and we'll see you around the moot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.